welcome back to the Stylish Collective podcast After Dark, the first edition, which we're starting with a bunch of lovely ladies today. I am so excited, cousins. We are not in the backyard, we're in the back by the fire with champagne and other bougie vittles, whatever that might be. If you're vegan, I guess you got some water and air. But if you're naughty, you're drinking the spirits. And I'm so excited that I'm just here with girlfriends. This is button down, titties out.
Yes.
Episode called Heaux Tales. And we're going to get into some things that should excite everybody. And if they don't, we'll at least have fun. So I would like to introduce all of my co-hosts, but really I kind of feel like a co-host because they just take up all of the fabulousness in the room, and I am so happy to share it with them. So in no particular order, we're going to start on down. Y'all know me, V, of course, where I live, laugh, and love stylishly. But today we have the lovely Alexandra Maurice, my beautiful starlet. We have the fantastic and amazing and lovely Miss Wilhern Benjamin, best friend extraordinaire, and the divine pantsless one. Take a pause. I'm so just in love. Sheree, cardboard artist. I love you so much. Hello. So this is like an inaugural way of girls just getting together. And I just want to start off here, Heaux Tales. When we think about that moniker, and Jasmine Sullivan, if you happen to be on Spotify, please don't hit me for copyright. But also, I love you. And I love that you're telling stories of women talking about their sexuality in a mature and refined manner. And even the unrefined parts of it were very classy. The way you've shown up for women, we first want to thank you for celebrating every stage of the things that we encounter that are judged by ourselves and by others, and giving us a free space to just be. And that's what this is about tonight. Um, and with that being said, I want to go across the line or just jump in. When we think about hotels, what do you ladies think about? Anybody?
I think hotels is really standing in your truth.
Mm.
The whole piece in itself, it's a little bit of guilt, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of confessions, and more. Like it's just a peekaboo into her life, a peekaboo into what's her name, Ari Lennox, also
Yes.
as well, a peek into her life and her. So I think it was insightful to see like what she's gone through, because sometimes you think like these celebrities are on a pedestal, but they're not. They go through the same issues that we do, and that's why they sing about it. That's why many of us can connect to the music as well.
Yeah, it felt very much like a moment of reflection and almost like a journal entry in like these Black women's lives, and the stories that we tell each other like privately when no one else is around. It just felt so celebratory and like raw and honest and generous. But it truly felt, there's just something so like real about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we all have those experiences, or maybe we haven't, but I think it's just so relatable. Like it's all just very relatable content. So yeah, it just felt like a conversation that we would just be having together, So I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yes. Pantsless queen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you.
Y'all gonna
Right,
put my girl
okay.
aside.
She said ditto. She said me too.
Wait a minute. All right, so I am representing the part of the audience who has yet to be introduced to hotels, which is great because I get to ask you guys questions. You guys get to bring up things and say what your you've experienced and what she's saying, and I get to ask you questions like, if I were unacquainted with Heaux Tales, what song should I start with? Or where should I start?
Personally, I would start at Lost One just because it's so iconic. And for me, as soon as I hear the first chord of that song, it just takes me right to a mood, to a reflective point. I feel that, unfortunately, but maybe fortunately so, the first thing that most women tap into is loss. But I love how she tells the story from the perspective of the woman being the one who lost someone, because usually we're the one who gets fucked over. But no matter how you spin that, you can relate on both sides. When I hear that, even though I could think of several people who would sing it to me, I also think of maybe people that I misjudge, because you could lose friendships, you could lose lovers. And so I would tell you, start in the most vulnerable position, however you want to read that, and listen to Lost One.
Okay, I like. Is that like, so with I saw the performance with Jasmine Sullivan and her.
Yes.
It was like,
Girl Like Me. That's it. Girl Like
Oh,
Me. Yeah.
so
and
good.
like I feel like, even, and I think I even saw a different video that was by herself, but I felt, and I think I said this to you last time, but that I felt like the way that she's using her voice and her sound now, it feels like it just hits her in the pocket. Like before, I always loved her voice and I always thought she has amazing strong voice, but I didn't always think that her music necessarily like made it as raw as her voice is. Like there was always something that felt like there was like a filter in between, like maybe just the style of the music or the production. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that go into the song outside of just the voice. But I feel like right now the tone that I'm getting from it is like really, really, really on point. When you guys talk about like the feelings that you get from it, is there like a general like, is there a general feeling, is there a general style that you think is just like kind of, you can kind of sum it up in like a phrase or a sentence? Is it is it empowering? Is it vulnerable? Is it like staking a claim? Like what?
I think it's definitely a vulnerable piece. Um, Definitely that song, Girl Like Me, it evoked some type of emotions. You know, like I felt the hurt in it, in the song. Like I felt it. And I think I felt that with a lot of the other songs. I don't remember the titles.
Yeah.
But that's what I felt. Like even though some of those situations I haven't been in, like you can feel like you hear like she sounds disappointed in herself by the way she sings.
Yeah.
You can hear that she's sad about how something went. You can hear how she's upset that she kind of disappointed herself in some situations.
Yeah.
You can also feel like she's just like, damn, I just want to sit on it and just like owning that, and you feel it.
Yeah.
So, for sure, you just feel like the emotion, whether you've experienced that or not. As a human, you're like, wow, I'm feeling that human emotion from her as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like Jasmine is one of those artists that you have to listen to her live, because anytime she's recorded, her voice is like tampered with so much that it kind of, like you said, you don't get like the full rawness and power of her voice. And for me, I always describe her as like otherworldly. Like
Yeah.
I say, I go through like literally a journey listening to her. So I would say you got to start with that tiny desk, child. You got to hear her live and in her element, because I feel like that is where like her truth really comes out. You can see like she is fully alive and like fully raw. And I think that that's so rare, especially with like a lot of artists today. So the fact that she's able to be like that clear and vulnerable and just so powerful with her instrument live in her storytelling, like it, for me, it's like otherworldly. It's not of this earth. She, I don't know, it's just it's magical what she does.
I think that when you really can celebrate art in like its rawest form, like what you offer kind of makes people feel like they could be raw because we put on so many layers just to feel safe. And listening to her, yes, Tiny Desk, yes, you're absolutely correct. If you were to start anywhere, Pantsless Queen, I would say do Tiny Desk at any point you would like to mull through and just be, because she gave it all and her voice is stronger than probably any way that they're modifying it. And it, at that point, it's just her and the mic. Like you hear the band, but it's just her. And like a trench coat and 30-inch weave. We live for that. The simplicity.
I remember In Love with Another Man when it came out.
Oh my God.
I remember it riding on the subway, and I was around the time that I was getting like my first like passionate crush. Like I had had crushes before, and I had like, I'd like people, but this one was like, and I genuinely had liked people, but this was the first time that
I'm trying to remember who this was. Was this
Who's
in New York
the
City
passionate
subway?
crush? Now we need the tea.
Right, I'm investigating. So was this in New York City subway? What line
Right.
was this? Was it the one?
What train was it?
Was it the A train? Like, where were you going?
What stop did you get off? What did you get on?
I was on the Georgia Avenue bus.
Oh, so this is throwback. This is DC, girl.
I was getting my first crush that had like a huge passion behind it. I was so used to like, and for me, like I have crushes all the time, and then every once in a while I'll get someone like that I'll genuinely like, but like that kind of combination of like and like I want to eat your face, like I want to like.
Oh.
What is that? Is that called lust, or is that
Or cannibalism.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about eating faces.
Episode.
Right?
I want to consume
Cannibalism.
but I just remember I just remember listening to that song and it hitting me, like not even like, yes, the words, and I think the fact that the words were like almost like it doesn't make sense, like I can't even explain it, it's really just how I feel, like he's not great, he's not whatever, but like I just know every fiber is like here, and I know that I shouldn't, but this is just, and like I just remember the power behind her voice just being like that feeling, like just the sound of your voice, even if she hadn't said any words, if she had just sung and just put like behind it, I would have been like, yes, like
Can I
that's
say, I love how so many memories can be so attached to music, like like remembering, like listening to a song at a certain point in your life, and it's having such significance. So I love that music has that power, where the fact that you are so specific in that memory and how it's attached to this one very specific song. I think that's why I love art, you know?
And I was like, I think at that time I was like, I was like, the thing about music is that it can so often put into words just what you cannot, like it was just that idea of being like, of being like someone else gets, like, oh, I get it, like I get that, like I couldn't say it in a conversation, but if I played that song you would know what I was talking about. And it's like that I was like, oh, Jasmine,
I feel like the soundtrack of our lives, if we all could pick it, would tell a very interesting story. Girl. And thinking of that concept, given that we just lived through like the apocalypse, I'm wondering what would be one song that you ladies each could provide us that would tell us where you're at in the soundtrack of your life.
Ooh, that's a great question.
I'll start while y'all think, because it immediately came to my mind. There's a song, very little known song called Stronger by Tank. Not a lot of people talk about it. It just talks about how not you didn't know that the person needed to break you in order for the pieces that were no longer needed to fall away. And that song reminds me of 2020 in and of itself. If 2020 was a person, it was a motherfucker that came in and busted everything up that needed to go that you didn't even know need to go. And then there was some things that just needed to go. And it just helped you make it happen. At least when I think about it. And there's probably a few others, but that's what comes up for me. What about you, ladies?
The first song that I thought of is by Rico Nasty, and it's off her new album, and it's called Let It Out. And I love Rico Nasty's music, like this like new like age punk like rap mashup, and I just love her and like her art. And I don't know, there's just something about that song. I think because especially like even just in 2021, like everything that's happened up until this point, like in the political climate and with the pandemic, like there's so many feelings, honestly, that I have of like anger and disappointment more so with this country that I'm like reckoning with, where I'm like, there's like a loss of innocence, and I wouldn't say loss of hope, but I think that it is just a turning point for me. And that song just resonates so much with me because it's just about like whatever you're feeling, like let it out. Like, and I just love the idea of us as Black women, like being able to embrace and express strong emotions without judgment or without like guilt or shame. So that would be my song.
Beautiful.
All right, Let It Out.
Yes.
Rico Nasty. I have never heard of her before, but now I'm gonna have to Google her. Sorry, is that I should not.
You don't.
Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna put you on, girl. Don't worry.
Why you don't listen to music, Cherie? What have you been listening to, Cherie? What's going on? What are you listening to, Cherie?
I've been listening, kids.
You've been looking at Alexa ads with what's his name?
Her husband.
You just
Her
made my
husband.
blood rush
Michael
to my
B.
head just by mentioning it.
Oh, Michael B. Jordan, yes.
Did you see the commercial?
We didn't see the commercial like you didn't listen to Jasmine.
Rude.
Disrespect.
Don't put me out there like that.
She wasn't gonna miss a Michael B. Jordan commercial now.
She
got time to miss Jasmine.
It totally caught me off guard. He posted it on Instagram and I clicked on it and I said, oh, nice little Alexa ad. And then all of a sudden he had no shirt on and he was saying things in French. And I told you I was studying French and I knew it. I just said, oh, okay.
Did you feel like he was talking to you? Was that like the bad signal that Michael B. Jordan and you are like, soul to soul,
Well, we're pelvis to pelvis.
You trying to tell a Heaux Tale? What you trying to do?
Just say shit sometimes. All right. What are we talking about?
Your song.
Oh, so my song is me at the moment. So I've just started kind of really like started recording my sounds, and like I found some producers to try and like mix stuff and whatnot. And I've always wanted to do something, but I've never kind of known how to put a hand on it. It's all so foreign to me. But this past year, I discovered how important it is just to have your own sound, whether that's your speaking, your singing, your yelling, or whatever. And for me, I think being able to like write out lyrics and say it and just have something for me to hold on to, even if it's just for me, but to have something that has my sound, like my heartbeat, my whatever, is like, it's the strongest I've ever felt in terms of owning my own voice. So I'd say at this moment, I'm like the soundtrack to myself. And it's actually it's quite wonderful. Like, you've just discovered new things about yourself that you never, like, it's something else. It's something really cool. So yeah, I think me. Yeah.
Sounds by Cherie. That's the name of the album.
Yeah.
With Michael B. Jordan on the cover with no shirt.
He's 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 just oh,
We
I
don't
can't
want to get you
you guys
too
haven't seen
super
the
classy.
commercial. Oh, I'm gonna email it all to you. Okay.
No, you're not. My lovely chocolate dip. What song
Yes.
do you have in mind?
To be honest, I don't have a song in mind, but I'm really projecting myself towards energy. So I think right now I'm really into Afrobeats. Like I think it's just the
Ooh.
attitude, the funk, the culture. I think that's what I want to go forward with. Like I don't want to be down and in my feelings. 2020 really kicked my ass. We might get into that later, but I really just want to be like, you know what? Let me tap into what makes me happy. What's gonna get me moving? Like I've never been like a very, you know, like someone who works out. I'm now getting into that. Someone who takes care of their body. Someone who's learning yoga. Like I never did that before. So I think I'm more tapping into what feels good and what's gonna get me up and going. So no song, but a whole vibe,
A
Afrobeats vibe.
full vibe. I like it.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're feeling very whiz kid right now.
I am a little bit of A Star. He's like a Afro dance star. Yes, his name
Who
is A
that?
Star.
Oh.
Girl, he all the Ghanaian music you would ever want to hear. Yes, him.
Oh.
We
Burna
need to have a
Boy.
Zoom dance party.
We do.
Like make our
Should.
own playlist.
I
We
think
should
we
do that.
should.
We could do that. We could totally do that. And going to your point about self-care, and I know this is a hot topic right now, especially with everything we're dealing with mental health. When it comes to self-care, what is one thing you would like to share, all of us? What is one thing you could share with everybody about your daily rituals to love on yourself? How do you restore your glow up day to day? Anybody can go.
It's funny you say that. I actually have my self care kit right here. It's actually my journal
Ooh.
and my boss, like a boss pen.
You was prepared.
Well, yes, I keep it with me just in case you guys give me some gems. I forgot this was going to be recorded, but I had it here just in case.
Yeah.
So this has gotten me through undergrad and graduate school right now, and heartbreaks and love and loss and adventure and all of that. So this is who I'm tapping into, my journal. I think journaling is beautiful. I tell anyone I can. I've given you a journal. I'm like super passionate about it. I give friends journals all the time. And for me, journaling is not just venting, recalling, but it's really like reflecting on what you've been through. I've gone back into my journal and read like, wow, that's how I felt.
Right.
I was really mad. Or oh, I actually had a good time. Or you just remember these gems that you like re-give yourself in a way. So that's one thing I'm doing. It's free. It's cheap therapy. I tell people that all the time. But yes, journaling really saved my life.
Mm.
Mm. Now, is there a specific prompt that you go with, or you just sort of free ball it and write whatever's coming to your heart?
So before, when I first got into journaling, I was gifted my first journal by one of my coworkers when I was going away to college, and it wasn't prompted, but I felt the need to journal when I was super overwhelmed, when I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to, or I was too shy to tell people about what I was going through. So that's what first prompted me to write. And this one, it's not really a prompt, but it has these sweet little gems in it. So it says like her greatest power is believing in herself. So
Oh.
really, it's what comes to me. It's really what comes to me, how my day was, something I learned that day. Like I said, I write in it all the time. Like I'll hear like something beautiful someone says, and I'll write it down, and reflect on that. So it's really what's on my heart.
Beautiful.
That's so cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you ladies, what is your daily ritual like?
I love journaling. Journaling also is like key for me, major key. But something I've been like reading this book that I found, and it's all about like self-compassion. And I didn't realize like how hard I am on myself. And so like reading this book has been like really eye-opening. And so for me, like the practice of being compassionate towards myself is like something that I'm like actively practicing every single day, which has been like such a game changer for me. Um, so that when I'm in moments where, you know, maybe like I have like heightened emotions or things that in the past maybe I would approach with like judgment. Now I'm like curious about them and I'm like, okay, like let's interrogate this. And just kind of even changing how I go about it or even observe it is like completely different. So for me, it's like practicing self-care is like practicing self-compassion. And that's something that I can do anywhere. It costs me nothing. I don't need anyone's permission. And it's like something that I can instantly do that actually makes me feel better. But that's like a gift for me that, you know, I hope helps other people.
Yes. Yes. And Cherie, my love, what do you do?
I pray, to be honest. I realize that most of the stress that I ever have in life is because I spend too much time thinking about myself. And I
Mm,
realize, even if that's trying to, think of, you know, good ways, positive ways, I think when you get so focused on you, that becomes your world. And so any up, any down, it becomes massive because your world is literally like here. And so I think for me, prayer allows me to think bigger. It allows me to realize that and I like the feeling of being like a speck of dust in the sand of people. Like it's like the sand doesn't exist without all of those specks of dust. So there's still an importance there, but it doesn't make me feel like I have to carry this burden of expectation or for either myself or from others. And I don't have to spend all of my energy on me. And I actually find it to be replenishing to give it to someone else. And I think the safest place to give it is through prayer and to God and all of these things where I can kind of just like I can just be grateful and be thankful for something that just lies outside of the human surface. I get to just kind of leave and go out into like a bigger space. And I think that helps me to just kind of ground myself to be like, it's cool. Like you're in this place and time, just chill out and like life will carry you and you got it. And like you don't have to think about you all the time. Sometimes you could just think about other people or you could just think about, the world and existence and like how favored you are to just exist and just be grateful and leave it at that. And that just reminds me every day it can be so much, it can just be easier.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love
Yes,
that.
that was beautiful.
Yeah, life will carry you. I think in essence that's faith.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's just realizing like, like there's so much more than just you. So it's okay. You really don't have to be everything or do everything. Everything in your path is geared to a much bigger machine that was in existence way before you and will be after you. And the role you play is very important, but it's your role and you can trust that role. And everything else, just let everything else be. And that's just so much more comforting. I don't have to kick my ass every day. I can just be like, do what you can and then like pray for the rest. So yeah.
Gratitude is so, there's just something about it. And even though it sounds kind of cliche and we hear so many important, thought leaders speak about it, you find yourself when you really get seated in your soul, it really is based from gratitude for the smallest of things. And I completely agree with you. I would say the most important thing that I do every day now is just affirmations because I realized how I was speaking to myself about myself. was altering my ability to see myself outside of myself. And I realized that my relationships with people have a lot to do with how I feel about myself, because you radiate and you attract who you are, not what you say you are, who you really are, how you vibrate. And knowing that we're in like a new level of consciousness, I feel like what we think about becomes. Like, look at this room. You guys are delicious and brown and varied and fabulous, and just talking about sisterhood, you know, all of us, and I would love to get into this, the way that we grow, right? All of us met in our 20s. Wilhern and I, we've known each other since preteen, but we evolve as women. But no matter how far apart we are, we're all in different places right now, but we're at such a place that we're vibrating in a way that we feel so connected. Like, I don't feel any different than if we were all in the living room, kikiing, drinking wine, getting to some things, as we usually do. But all of that was based on the way that we thought and our modus operandi, whatever the bougie word is. And it aligns all of us. So for me, my daily ritual is now strongly based in affirmation and dealing with the law of resonance, getting into universal law. But I now want to segue over to, if you ladies don't mind, talking about sisterhood, right? So we get into a certain mindset, and based on where we're at, we can think about our friendships, we can think about our relationships romantically. But speaking of the girls in one room, how do you feel about how sisterhood has shifted in this time through 2020, 2021, just in your growth process? Where are you ladies at when you think of the word sisterhood?